Welcome to Lipstick Attitude, hosted by Dr. Elizabeth King, psychotherapist, hypnotherapist, author, and motivational speaker, specializing in trauma and women's mental health, and Yvonne Haase, psychotherapist and coach specializing in relationships, couples, and women's issues. This show is your dose of inspiration, information, and laughter. In each episode, Dr. King and Yvonne bring you hacks, tips, and inspiring stories to help you live a successful life. So ladies, grab your lipstick. It's time to do this. The Lipstick Attitude podcast is powered by Suit Stilettos and Lipstick Foundation, a nonprofit movement to empower women and children from all walks of life to be resilient, self-confident, and purposeful leaders through education, mentorship, and community outreach. To learn more, visit sslwomen.org. Please note that this show is intended to empower and educate. It is not meant to be utilized as a substitute for individual therapy.
Welcome, everyone. This is Dr. Elizabeth King, and this is the Lipstick Attitude, another episode of the Lipstick Attitude. I can't believe it's just been about 3 months that we've been doing this and loving it. And today we have another special guest with us. We have Ginger Martin, who is a friend of mine and my soul sister. And I'm going to introduce her formally, but for right now, good morning, Ginger.
Good morning. It's exciting to be here.
Thank you for being here. And of course, my co-host, Yvonne Haase, who's right there. Hi, Yvonne.
Hello, everybody.
How are you, Yvonne?
I am fabulous. Thank you. I'm always fabulous.
Well, today's show, I think we're going to be taking notes. Yvonne and I are ready with our pen and paper. They're ready to take notes because the topic of today is the power of setting priorities. And we're going to learn some really great tricks and life hacks from Ginger Martin. And let me just give you a short intro on Ginger. First of all, she is my soul sister, just an amazing friend, has been with me through thick and thin through the years. And I just have to say that just a godly woman that has shared so much wisdom with so many people, including me. So I'm honored to introduce her as the president and CEO of American National Bank. Ginger Martin, hold on a second, I have to move this over here. Ginger Martin is not only known to run a successful community bank, but she is also known as a community leader. I would say a community servant leader, anti-human trafficking activist, and an advocate for women's professional development and growth. And that's why she's so instrumental in the growth of Suit Stilettos and Lipstick Foundation, and has been a mentor to us because of her passion for supporting people in general, but more specifically women. So again, welcome, Ginger, my friend. I love you to pieces, and I'm just honored that you're on the program today.
Well, again, it is a true honor and privilege for me to be here. And I've got my SSL red on.
Oh, yeah, you do. Yeah, you know, it's funny. We're not wearing SSL red because, and I'm going to put in a plug. I don't think you can see us through the mics, but we have our sassy shirts on. Mine says sassy is my superpower. And Yvonne has hashtag sassy life. We made a decision a few programs ago to wear our sassy shirts and really proudly share the message of being smart, assertive, strategic, selfless, and young at heart, which is what we stand for. And what better way than to wear it on our clothing so that people can see that. So I appreciate you wearing the red, and it connects us completely right there and then. So I want to talk about this topic that you picked that is so crucial to all of us, right? Everybody wants to know how to prioritize. And I have to tell you, as a therapist, and I'm sure Yvonne can attest to this as well, as a therapist, that's probably one of the things that we work with people on a lot, is time management and setting priorities. But yet we struggle with that as well. So why did you choose priorities as a topic for today, Ginger?
Hey, there's several reasons that I chose this topic. And one of them is personal, and that's the fact that I do not have this figured out. So that's my disclaimer as we start. You might go, okay. I figure a lot of times if we talk about things and we try to help others understand, then that helps us. So this is something I struggle with all the time. And then when we think about what we've gone through with COVID, and here we are coming up on the holidays, and people are always saying, oh, I wish I had more time. And truthfully, here's kind of one of my big things I want to start off with is that even though we talk about time management, we can't manage time because all of us only have 24 hours in a day, and it doesn't matter anything about our education, our background, our training, our ethnicity, our sex. We all get 24 hours. So we can't manage time, but we can manage our priorities. So I chose this because I thought it was timely and also as a reminder to myself that I still need work on setting priorities in my own life.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm right with you. I am right with you.
Yes, I love it. In fact, we were talking before we jumped online today about, where we all are at with our priorities. And I said to Ginger, I'm so excited because I get to ask the next question, which is how can we better prioritize our lives? And I have my pen and some paper, like I'm ready to take notes because evidently either I need to hire someone to prioritize my life or I just missed the memo.
And especially, Ginger, for you to be speaking about this is really so appropriate, right? For all of us women listening, because here you are, the president of a bank. I mean, that's a big job, right? That's a really big job. And you are everywhere. You do so many things in the community. When I read your bio and we talk about you being, a servant leader, that's not even a descriptor of what you do because you are everywhere serving and doing so much. So how do you better prioritize?
Yeah, how can we
how do you do it?
Okay. All right. So then I'm talking to myself too, because we all have this dilemma of we find ourselves doing so many things and maybe sometimes those aren't necessarily the best things that we should be doing. So the first idea I want to introduce to you really came from the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. I love that book. It's an old book, but so much richness in there. But in that book, he talks about the 4 quadrants of time management. So the 4 of them are the important and not urgent, the important and urgent, the not important and the urgent, and the not important and not urgent. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that. The important and urgent, that's pretty easy to identify. You show up at work and your best client is not happy. All right, so that's pretty easy to determine that's a priority. But then we have these things that are urgent and not really important. And look, this is one that I personally just struggle with. Email, right? Email is always beckoning for us to respond. And so it seems urgent, but sometimes, it really is not the most important priority at the time. And then I think we as women certainly struggle, with this one. And that's the thing where it's important, but it's not urgent. And those are the things like our health, our relationships, those things that really, really do matter, but because they're not in our face all the time, those are the things that we can sometimes forget about that really are so critical. That's
an interesting concept to think of it that way. And I'm going to start going around marking which ones are urgent because I think I work on the everything is urgent mode.
Right. Right. Yes, yeah? Exactly.
Don't you feel like everything is urgent? It's like, I got to do that. I got to do that.
It's urgent and it's important. And
it is important.
Done first thing, apparently for me at about 4:30 in the morning, because that's when my brain pops open and says, hey, lady, you forgot to do 27 million things. So time to get up.
Time to get up. Time to get up. Can you give us some examples of the 80-20 rule?
Yes, because you know what, this, because that's one of the things that I've tried to use to help me in setting that. If we go back to those quadrants, like what is important? Because just like you were saying, everything seems urgent at the time, but that's too where when we can try to examine ourselves. If we look, where are we spending our time? What are we making, priority? So this whole concept of the 80-20 rule is also called the Pareto principle. And it's this philosophy that 20% of what we do when we're doing the important things are going to give us 80% of our results. So let's just say, for instance, probably a lot of us, we start off with our to-do list. And so let's just say you've got 10 things on that to-do list. Well, truthfully, if you look at that, the question is, what are the 2 things that are really going to give me the most result, the most, make me most productive? And if we would focus on those 2 things, then we're going to have had a good day, instead of like trying to do all 10 and maybe not getting them done. This is also sometimes referred to as the big rocks. You might have seen that example before. We've got the cylinder and you got different sizes. It's the big rocks that matter. So when it comes to those priorities, it's like, what are those few things that really are going to matter the most?
It's interesting that I know this for a fact. I think people make excuses for not making things priority that need to be priority, yet they'll, shift things to other things that it just makes them spin around and like chasing their tails. I think that what happens is people, and I include myself in this, by the way. I'm not, when I say people, it's AKA
all
me too. me too. I think we all prioritize things in a distorted way, in that we think that sometimes the things that don't really matter have to be done right away, yet the other things get pushed aside. And I actually, and Yvonne and I have actually taught this in one of our master classes, is that time, space, and money is prioritized according to your history, according to how you see things to be important. But if something comes up, for example, and we took a class on this actually ourselves. We went to a conference on time management, and they talked about that if you have a packed day, for example, on your calendar, and something urgent happens, like your kid ends up in a car accident, for example, all of a sudden you will rework your schedule to make sure that you take care of your kid and still get the other stuff done. It's amazing how that works. But if you don't see that it's a priority, you don't get it done, even though it should be classified as a priority. So you make time for the things that you really feel that are important in your life. And that's an interesting concept, right? When we talk about prioritizing, because people make a lot of excuses, including me, again, I'm going to raise my hand, as to why I choose the things that I'm doing and leave other things behind. And I think looking at the way you're speaking about it, Ginger, really makes us stop for a minute and reflect a little bit about, what is it that we think is important and what really is important. Those are two different things, right?
Because, I think what happens, and I'm guilty of this, sometimes we do the easy stuff. And some of that easy stuff is sometimes the stuff that's not important, and it's not urgent. And then the other times we let other people determine for us, because it's urgent to them, they suck us into it, when truthfully, that might not really be important to us right now. And again, being able to look and say, what really matters? What really matters today? And I have a couple of questions that I've tried to use to help me decide. And believe me, I just want to say I'm such a work in progress. All right. I
love that. I love that.
I haven't got it mastered, but it's really referred to as, there's 3 questions to help us with our priorities. And so the first one, and they all have an R word in them, what's required of me? What is it that only I can do? So we look at our schedule, we look at our things that are calling for our attention, and it's like, what can I only do? And what could maybe be delegated to someone else? So that's the first R, what's required. The second R is, what's going to give us the greatest return? So really, when we're talking about return, maybe that's the thing that's going to help us be the most profitable. It's going to help us get that customer that we really need to take our business, forward. It's the thing that really is going to help us in what we define however we define our success, whether it's in business or even, personally. Where's the return? What again matters? So first, what's required of me? Second, where's the greatest return? And the third one is, where do I get my greatest reward? What is that thing that I really feel good about when I accomplish that? So required, return, reward.
I love it.
Do you then wake up in the morning and run those 3 questions through your head, or do you wait till the project comes up? No, I really need to know this stuff.
We need to know.
I was sharing with you ladies before we went online that, I feel guilty when I work from home and I don't book a client in that hour, because God forbid I eat lunch, which apparently is not required. There's no reward in it for me whatsoever, but nourishing your body. Exactly. So how do you set your day up? And I know I get you're a student of it too. So what I love about this conversation is that it just transcends to everybody.
It's real.
There's nobody out there, unless you're perfect. If you are, please call us, because we'd like to interview you.
Yes, please.
How you get this done. So how do you set yourself up for this?
Well, one thing I think you have to start just kind of from a big picture standpoint, overall, and part of that is what you really want from your life. What is really important to you? So I think it's setting aside some time to do some self-reflection and to really say, hey, what does my ideal life look like? And then the thing that I have done is, and I'll share, because this is the only thing that I will tell you that I do consistently, and that is, my faith's a very important part of my life. And so I have made the determination, I want to make sure that I'm really spending time, in prayer, with God, reading the Bible. And so what I have done, I do that first thing in the morning. So I get up, I have my coffee, let the dogs out, and then I start there. And what I have found is that helps me frame my entire day. So, and I've been doing this for several years, and that's the one thing that I have done it on a consistent basis. But now let's talk about something else, because Yvonne, even when you're talking about that 1 hour, I mean, we can't forget about self-care too. So for me, that's spiritual. That's that spiritual part. But what about our health? Again, so we've got, and you've heard this isn't new, a rocket scientist, is that if we don't schedule things, if we don't make an intentional commitment or an intentional decision that we're going to do certain things and we put it on our calendar, the chances are, we're not going to do it. So again, this one thing, as far as how I start my day, I'm consistent. But then back to your other question, because I think let's go to work now. So let's say now we're looking at our day. Well, then I think when you can look at your to-do list, because we all make to-do lists. So man, we write everything down, but then let's look at it. And if we go back to that 80-20 rule, we say, okay, what's the top 2 things on this list of 10 that you know what, are required, that only I can do, that are going to give me a good return, you know, it's going to give me that most profitability, and that I'm also going to get some pleasure, you know, out of. So I think you've got the big picture of your life overall, what's important and what do you want to stand for, and how do you want to spend, make sure you're spending your time on important things. And then it could be a project. So I guess to answer your question, I've done some stuff ahead of time and some stuff I do on a daily, you know, on a daily basis, on determining that.
I love that you go ahead.
But okay, so for me, when I talk about a big rock, you know, that starting my day a certain way, I've realized that's a big rock for me, and it's critical, and it really impacts the rest of my day.
Yeah, and I love that you talked about self-care, and I think that setting your day up with reflection, devotion, whatever way you take time to center yourself, for you and for me, it's sitting down with our Bibles and our devotionals, and it's starting the day with that. But self-care, about stopping and having something to eat and exercising, and especially now that we're all, you know, on Zoom calls, you know, for the whole entire day. Are we stretching? Are we exercising? Are we moving? All that really is something that we need to set up as a priority in those top tiers, right? As opposed to putting it aside. I was sharing with you ladies about my revelation that I had last night, and I need to tell people, because it is such a big deal that this came to my mind and my heart, and it's like, you know, like, hallelujah, I felt like I needed to start singing or something when this
Listen
all
up,
happened.
Everybody, because this is profound.
This
and
is
it's
profound.
Rocket science.
This is science.
Rocket science.
This is rocket science. Hello. This is like, you need to write this down. Get your notebooks right now, pads. You need to write this down, because it came to me in the middle of the night as I was stressing over all the things that I needed to do this week. And I'm seeing, you know, patients 12-hour days, 13-hour days. And I am like overwhelmed, and I'm like thinking, how the heck do I do all of this? And then this profound theory came to me that I can control my schedule. Oh my gosh, drum roll,
right.
people. Like, I'm the one that schedules all these appointments. I'm the one that puts in all these meetings. I'm the one that does not put in my, you know, eating lunch or not exercising time. I'm the one that's controlling that. So if I'm the one controlling that, I can control changing that. And that's so
right.
empowering, right? And so it was so appropriate that we had this interview today, because
we needed it.
I needed it, because it just solidifies what my revelation was last night, that I can prioritize according to what I know is important, not what I think is important or what other people think is important for me to do. Right?
That's right. That is so true.
So everybody, write it down.
Write it down. You cannot schedule things, or you can actually schedule things. I have that written down.
I'm going to start schedule.
I'm going to start scheduling myself to schedule stuff. That's about where I am.
There you go. That's right. That's the planning part. That's setting aside something that's going to have a great, really return and reward to you to do that.
Yeah. And, you know, and I think it's so relevant now during COVID times, because I don't know why in this very thick skull of mine, I thought that working from home, I didn't need a planning period.
Because
I don't even
changed.
know. Something changed. Like, I don't know what it was, but I'm finding that a lot of people I talk to are kind of the same way. Like, they're like, oh, I finally realized, I mean, how long have we been doing this? Since March. And now Thanksgiving is this week. I mean, you'll hear this podcast after, but that just gives you the time frame. But it's insane to me how many people I talk to, and they're like, yeah, you know, I didn't even think about it now that I work from home. Like, you still need to do these things for your business, for yourself, for your family, for whatever. So then, Ginger, why does margin become important? Like, what role does margin play? in all
Well, you know
of
what?
this.
If we can do a better job of determining our priorities, making a commitment, being consistent and sticking with them, then theoretically we should have more margin. And that could be confirmed. That's also referred to as like white space. So that is where, even when we look at our calendar, Dr. King, where you don't have anything there. You've got, or like Yvonne, like you said, that even that planning, that time where the thing about March, okay, we're guilty. And look, and I know you too, and you guys know me, we're always running 90 to nothing. We're run. And yes, then we ended up feeling stressed and overwhelmed. And then pretty soon we're going to be burned out. And we're not doing ourselves or anybody else a favor. So if we have this concept of margin, because we've done a better job setting our priorities, that's the time that we get to be creative. That's the time we get to be strategic. There's an organization, a CEO organization called Vistage, and it's called, working on our business instead of in our business, so that we have that time to think. Because if we're always running from one appointment to another, from one thing to another, we're not thinking, we're not being, creative. And the other thing that margin does is it gives us that time to renew, recharge ourselves. So we've all heard this before too. If we're running on empty, if we're not filling ourselves back up, what do we have to give to our family, our customers, our relationship, to the world? Because we haven't paused to have the margin to really refresh ourselves. So that is like the power of margin. And look, I think we would all be healthier and happier and have more peace and less stress if we had margin. But the truth is, that's not the way this culture has designed it. In fact, if you think about it, I think, and I would speak for myself, I'll own this. Sometimes I think I'm addicted to activity.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's like, do. Like that's how, that's what's going to give me value, is doing. Whereas truthfully, we need that to do a better job on setting our priorities so that we have that margin. So truthfully, we can be a better version of ourselves because we've got some white space to do that.
Yeah, that white space that you mentioned just now, I was just going to say before you said that word, that we learned about that at LifeWorks about having white space. Remember that?
Yes.
We talked a lot about that white space, and I had forgotten about it until just now when you were talking about margin. And, it makes me nervous to have white space. And
Yes.
it does. It makes me very anxious to have white space. And it's interesting. And guys, don't take this wrong, because I know there are guys that are listening to this program as well. But men have a better ability to do white space without feeling guilty. For some reason, I don't know exactly why we feel like we need every minute of the day taken up with an activity for us to feel useful, for us to feel whole. We almost feel, well, Yvonne mentioned it, that she feels guilty if and I look at my calendar, and I don't know for you ladies, I look at my calendar and I see some like empty spaces that I don't have an appointment there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Do you know all the stuff you have to do that is still lingering from the stuff you haven't done? Take that time to do that, or to do nothing, to sit and have lunch. I feel like I never can get my head wrapped around that white space. Do you ladies find a challenge with that?
Yeah. And in fact, you and I have discussed many times about taking Sundays totally off.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And how many times do we break that rule?
About 10 out of 10. Actually, about 11 out of 10, to be fully honest. Right. And it's not even, now we're doing businesses together, Dr. King and I, and it's not like she's saying to me, I can't believe you didn't get this done. Like, she just never has said that to me. And I don't think I've ever said anything like that to her. but it's self-imposed guilt about taking this one freaking day a week off. I mean, and I have kids to do things with them, to catch up on my house. I mean, I don't know if anybody else has this issue, but my laundry doesn't do itself. Like, it's amazing to me how that,
Good stuff.
and they arrest you if your children walk around naked. So you have to have clean clothes for these people. But it's so funny that the term is white space, because I have an iPhone, and unless something is booked on your calendar, the calendar remains completely white.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. All right.
Well, that should be our goal, is to have more of those.
It should be, seriously, to have some white space and to be okay with having white space. You know, I'm a huge fan of Brene Brown, and she says something in her Power of Vulnerability that says, it's like in this culture, and this is a cultural thing, is that we wear exhaustion like a badge of honor.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
Oh man, I'm so
tired.
I have so much to do. And it's kind of like, all right, pat me on the back, give me an award, because I'm so busy. And we're really missing it. We're really missing something very valuable by not saying, no, I don't always have to be busy. I'm going to have some white space on my calendar for nothing. For nothing.
Yes.
I think it was Ina Lee one time. I remember we were having a conversation at a conference, and she said, everybody brags about how much sleep we're not getting. Why don't we start a trend and say, hey, I got 10 hours last night? Because when people say to us, oh, I slept for 8 hours, and if you slept for longer, you're like, oh, no, me too. I only, like, we're embarrassed that we need sleep.
Yes.
It's like being embarrassed to breathe.
It's a badge of honor, I guess. Yeah, you're right. It's like, well, I only got 3 hours sleep last night. I only got 4 hours sleep. Well, I only got 2. I'm like, okay, I
was up all night. I win.
No, as we're all falling apart, right? Because we're exhausted.
Yeah, but you had said something really earlier, and when we first started, is that thing of being centered, having some calmness, having some peace. So I agree with you, Yvonne. Man, if we start talking more about some of those things instead of the other that the rest of the world is talking about, and really try to strive for it. And I don't think it's not easy. It's not easy. But if we're not even aware, if we're not even having this conversation with each other and ourselves, then we're just going to keep doing the same thing we've been doing, and that's running ourselves ragged.
Yes.
So I have 2 very, very important people in my life right here on this program, and I want to make a commitment with the 2 of you, the 3 of us, that we are really going to work hard at creating margin.
Yes.
I will have to schedule some time to think about this before I accept.
Hey, but that's a starting
love it. Yeah, that's a start. It's creating margin. Let's compare in a month's time, how much margin have we been able to create, white space in our lives this month. And I would love to challenge everyone that's listening to this program to do the same thing. And we'll check in with you, because I think we have to take action. It's at a point in my life personally that I need to take action. I can't just keep talking about it. I can't keep complaining about how much I do and how exhausted I am, if I'm not willing to take ownership and be accountable for my actions, because I do have control over my schedule, and I'm going to really take that to heart and really start making changes in my life. Are you ladies in?
I'm
in.
Okay, so let's do a support group. I think
group
I think we all need to stand up and say, hi, I'm Ginger Martin, and I am a member of the Workaholics
White Space Club.
Yeah, exactly. I think that if we talk about it, it's a wonderful thing because we're bringing awareness, but what are we willing to do as next steps? And I think that this is the beginning of next steps for me. It comes in an appropriate time for all of us. It's the end of this year that's been a very difficult year for the whole world. But, you know, we always start at the end of the year looking at what are we doing for 2021 or the next year. Let's start talking about what are we going to do next week that's going to change our lives. Let's not wait until January. Let's start doing something different and creating that white space.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Everybody ready?
It makes me very nervous to accept this challenge.
I know, me too. I'm actually like going to go and take a moment to breathe profoundly, to breathe in and out, because it's a big thing, especially once you put it out in the public world, then you're committed to doing it. So we're putting it out into the universe. So that makes us committed to ourselves. This is a commitment to your greatest self. When you say no to, you know, peripheral things and stuff that doesn't bring value to you, you're saying yes to you and to into your life, right? And that's what I think, that's what I know I'm ready to do. So here's the question that we'd love to ask. We'd love to ask our guests, because the work that you do and the talks and the messages that you give, Ginger, are profound. We've had you in several of our conferences, and you have such an incredible story, and the work that you do is just so impactful. But I want to know from your perspective, what do you wish your legacy will be when Ginger is no longer on this planet? What do you want people to know Ginger for?
Well, I really want to feel like that I've made a difference, and that just even might be in a few people's lives. I mean, sometimes I think it's wonderful that when we want to change the world, but sometimes I think we just need to start with a few people, you know, at a time. And you know what, Elizabeth, this is something that I got from life work too, that will sound familiar to you. And that is, I want to be known for living a generous life. So let me break down, that, because the L in life is like for just love, right? For loving and caring about, other people. And, the I is for influence. So, I want to be generous with really my influence that, again, I think that God has blessed me with. Like, how can I use that to really help others? And then F is for finances, because when we talk about generosity, everybody's like, oh, well, I don't have any money to give. It's not always about money. It's the other things. And then the E in that life stands for really our experiences, our education, our expertise. I mean, the things that we're good at, like that whole E too is encouragement. Man, I want to be known for somebody that was an encourager to others. So some of you that know me know that I climb mountains to raise funds and awareness to fight human trafficking. And one of my mantras has been, I want to climb higher and I want to take others with me. So I want to be that encourager that is really helping other people climb higher in their lives. So that was a long answer, but
it's a beautiful answer, and
it gives me goosebumps.
Yeah, it gives me goosebumps too, because then you're not only saying it, you're living it, and like I said, you've impacted my life tremendously, and I know that you have impacted the lives of many, many folks that you've touched. And interesting that when you say that you want to be generous, I think that your generosity extends so far and wide. So thank you for all that you do, and thank you for being a beacon of light in my life. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
It's been an exciting journey, and I love SSL and what you're doing, and just the mission. And I'm glad to know both of you.
Oh, thank you, love.
Thank you, Ginger. So, Ginger, we'll put this in the show notes, but how can people find you? How can they stay in touch with you?
So the best way is really my work email, and that is gmartin gmartin@americannationalbank.com. So it's long, but if you remember, gmartin@americannationalbank.com. And then, honestly too, I'm willing to share my cell phone number, which is 954-298-7408. I love people. I love to talk to people. And if I can be, helpful or encouraging, I want to be able to do that.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, ladies, it's time. Let's whip out our lipstick.
Yay. I
Okay.
love this. I love this.
Put our lipstick on. There we go. Ladies, this is our lipstick attitude. Lipstick is our war paint. It's what we put to get out there and face the world. It's our resilience. It's our strength. It's our courage. And listen, right now, more than ever, life is throwing a few monkey wrenches at us, but putting on your lipstick attitude will have you be a thriver, not just a survivor.
Yes.
Thank you so much,
Awesome.
Ginger,
Yes,
for being
all
our
right.
guest, and we'll have you back again. You always have a very great
In a month to
information.
hold us all accountable.
Yeah,
apparently.
yeah,
How much white
including
space
you.
you have. That's right.
Including you.
Exactly.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and make sure you tune into all of our episodes. We have amazing guests, as you can see. We'll be back. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.